Hi, my name is K.C. Tamirazu, lecturer in mathematics, PG courses, DNR College, Bhimavaram. I invite you to the presentation on LP spaces part 3 in Lebesgue theory. LP spaces part 3. In this presentation, we study some special spaces that are constructed on measure spaces which play a vital role in functional analysis and harmonic analysis. Our main goal in studying these classes is to achieve that these classes of integrable functions, which by a simple manipulation can be normed, and form a special category called Banach spaces. In LP spaces part 1, we defined an LP space and proved that LP space is a linear space and then introduced norm and proved Holder's inequality. In LP spaces part 2, we proved Minkowski's inequality and then proved that an LP space is a norm-linear space. Now, in this presentation, we are going to define summable series and absolutely summable series, and then we prove a necessary and sufficient condition for a norm-linear space to be complete. Finally, we prove Rees-Fisher theorem. In this presentation, we study about convergence and completeness. So, we go through some definitions first. Convergence of a sequence in a norm-linear space. A sequence Fn in a norm-linear space is said to converge to an element F in this space if given epsilon greater than 0, there exists a natural number k such that norm Fn minus F is less than epsilon for all n greater than k. Next definition, convergence of a sequence in an LP space. A sequence Fn is said to converge to F in the mean of order P if each P belongs to LP and norm Fn minus F tends to 0. Now, definition about pointwise convergence of a sequence. A sequence Fn converges pointwise to F if for each x, limit of Fnx equals Fx. Next, when do you say a sequence Fn converges to F? Almost everywhere. If there is a set E of measure 0 such that for each x belonging to E complement, limit of Fnx equals Fx, then Fn converges to F almost everywhere. Now, definition about a Cauchy sequence in a norm-linear space. A sequence Fn in a norm-linear space is said to be a Cauchy sequence if given epsilon greater than 0, there exists a natural number k such that norm Fn minus Fm is less than epsilon for all nm greater than or equal to k. Next, definition regarding completeness of a norm-linear space. A norm-linear space is said to be complete if every Cauchy sequence in this space converges. Next, definition of a Banach space. A complete non-linear space is called a Banach space. Now let us study some definitions regarding infinite series. First of all, let us recollect definition of an infinite series in real number system. Let UN be a sequence. Let S1 equals U1, S2 equals U1 plus U2, and so on. Sn equals U1 plus U2 plus and so on plus Un. That is, S1 is the first term of the sequence, and S2 is the sum of first two terms of the sequence, and so on. Sn is the sum of first n terms of the given sequence. Then, the sequence Sn is called an infinite series. So, infinite series means simply this sequence Sn. If the sequence Sn converges to S, in other words, if the infinite series converges to S, then the number S is called the sum of the infinite series. And this fact is symbolically written as S equals sigma n equals 1 to infinity Un. Now, absolute summability of an infinite series in a non-linear space. A series sigma n equals 1 to infinity Fn is said to be absolutely summable if sigma n equals 1 to infinity Naram Fn is finite. In other words, a series sigma n equals 1 to infinity Fn is said to be absolutely summable if the partial sum sequence sigma k equals 1 to n Naram Fk of the series sigma k equals 1 to infinity Naram Fk converges to a finite value sigma n equals 1 to infinity Naram Fn. Now, summability of a series in a non-linear space. A series sigma n equals 1 to infinity Fn in a non-linear space is said to be summable to a sum S if the partial sum sequence of the series converges to S. Partial sum, that means same terminology as here. Yes. This absolute summability resembles, this definition of absolute summability resembles absolute convergence in real number system. And summability in summability definition here resembles convergence in real analysis. Now we prove a theorem which states that a non-linear space X is complete if and only if every absolutely summable series is summable. In real analysis, every absolute convergent series is convergent. That means in real analysis, every absolute summable series is summable. But this may not be the case in a non-linear space. So now this theorem provides a necessary and sufficient condition for this. So let X be a non-linear space. This is common hypothesis for both the parts. In the first part, we assume that X is complete, and then prove that every absolutely summable series is summable. In the converse part, we assume that every absolutely summable series is summable and then prove that X is complete. So in the first part, let us assume that X is complete. We have to prove that every absolutely summable series is summable. So let us take an absolutely summable series. Let sigma n equals 1 to infinity Fn be an absolutely summable series. Now, by definition, sigma n equals 1 to infinity norm Fn is finite. Now we have to prove that this series sigma Fn is summable. Let us recollect a definition of summability. A series sigma Fn is said to be summable to a sum S if the sequence of partial sums of the series converges to S. Right. Let Gn be the sequence of partial sums of the series sigma n equals 1 to infinity Fn. Now claim Gn converges to an element in X. We do this by proving that the sequence Gn is a Cauchy sequence. So let epsilon be a small positive quantity. By absolute convergence of this series, the partial sum sequence sigma k equals 1 to n norm fk converges to a finite number. Sigma k equals 1 to infinity norm fk. That means corresponding to epsilon greater than 0, there exists a positive, a natural number capital N such that sigma k equals 1 to capital N norm fx minus sigma k equals 1 to infinity norm fx is less than epsilon. Here, if the first capital N terms cancels out here, then the remaining terms is sigma k equals capital N plus 1 to infinity norm fk. And since this norm is a positive quantity, so modulus of this means sigma k equals n plus 1 to infinity norm fk. So this is less than epsilon. Yes. Now let n greater than equal to m greater than equal to this capital N. Then norm Gn minus Gm. This equals sigma norm sigma k equals m plus 1 to fk. Why? Let us see. Here Gn is the nth partial sum sigma k equals 1 to n fk, and Gm is mth partial sum. That means sigma k equals 1 to m fk. So here n is greater than or equal to m. So this contains n minus m more terms than this. So if the first m terms here cancels with these m terms, then the remaining terms is sigma k equals m plus 1 to n fk. So this. Now, if these fk are elements of LP, if at all, these are elements of LP, then by Minkowski inequality for two terms, that is norm f plus g is less than or equal to norm f plus norm g. Here there are n minus m terms. This is a sum of n minus m terms. So extending Minkowski's inequality for n minus m terms, we get that this norm is less than or equal to sigma k equals m plus 1 to n norm fk. Yes. And here, since m is greater than capital N, this sum contains some more terms than this term. So this is less than or equal to this. Now, this is further less than this, since this contains only terms from capital N plus 1 to n, but here, beyond that, it contains up to infinity some more positive terms. Therefore, this is less than this. And here, since nm are greater than n, so by this sum is less than epsilon. Therefore, for each epsilon greater than 0, there exists a capital N such that n greater than equal to m greater than equal to n implies norm gn minus gm is less than epsilon. That means gn is a Cauchy sequence. Yes. Therefore, gn is a Cauchy sequence in X. But by assumption, X is complete. Therefore, every Cauchy sequence converges in X. Therefore, this gn converges in X. Here, what is gn? Gn is the sequence of partial sums of this series. So, the sequence of partial sums of this series converges in X. That means this series is summable. So, every absolutely summable series is summable. Now, in the converse part, we suppose that every absolutely summable series is summable. Now we prove that X is complete. For that, we prove that every Cauchy sequence in X converges in X. So let Fn be a Cauchy sequence. We know that a Cauchy sequence is convergent if it has a convergent subsequence. Now we construct a subsequence Fnk for the sequence Fn. Since Fn is a Cauchy sequence corresponding to epsilon equals 1 by 2, corresponding to epsilon equals 1 by 2, there exists n1, a natural number n1, such that n m greater than or equal to n1 implies norm fn minus fm is less than 1 by 2. Now we select f12 as first element of the subsequence. Now corresponding to epsilon equals 1 by 2 square, corresponding to epsilon equals 1 by 2 square, there exists a natural number n2. There exists a natural number n2 such that norm fn minus fm is less than 1 by 2 square. Here, without loss of generality, we may assume that n1 is greater than n2 is greater than n1. This is always possible. Now select fn2 as second element of the subsequence. Continuing this process, corresponding to epsilon equals 1 by 2 to the power of k, there exists a natural number nk such that nm greater than or equal to nk implies norm fn minus fm is less than 1 by 2 to the power of k. Without loss of generality, we may assume that nk is less than nk plus 1 for all k. Now select f and k as kth element of subsequence, and so on. Thus, we have a subsequence. Thus, we have a subsequence f and k for the sequence fn. Now we show that the subsequence f and k converges in capital X. Now we construct a series sigma k equals 1 to infinity gk whose kth partial sum is f and k. So for that, put g1 equals fn1, g2 equals fn2 minus fn1, and so on. Gk equals fnk minus fnk minus 1, and so on for k greater than 2. Observe that the sum g1 plus g2 plus and so on plus gk equals, here this term cancels with this and this term cancels with the next and so on. This term cancels with the previous term and so on. Therefore, this term remains. Therefore, this sum equals f and k. Therefore, f and k is a sequence of partial sums of the series sigma k equals 1 to infinity gk. Right. Now, we show that the series sigma k equals 1 to infinity gk is absolutely summable. For that, we have to show that sigma k equals 1 to infinity norm gk is finite. So, sigma k equals 1 to infinity norm gk equals, now here let us isolate the first term. So, from the rest. So this can be written as norm g1 plus sigma k equals 2 to infinity norm gk. Since here g1 contains only one term, from g2 onwards every term contains difference of 2 terms. Therefore we separate this from this. Isolate norm g1. Right. Now norm gk. here gk is fnk minus fnk minus 1. Therefore, norm gk equals norm fnk minus fnk minus 1. And here, if here nk is greater, nk plus 1 is greater than nk, then uh, here this sum is less than 1 by 2 to the power of k. But here nk minus 1. Therefore, this norm is less than 1 by 2 to the power of k minus 1. Here nk plus 1 is greater than nk. Nk equals nk. So in that case, if m equals nk, here this norm is less than 1 by 2 to the power of k. But here it is nk minus 1. Therefore, this norm is less than 1 by 2 to the power of k minus 1. By construction of the subsequence. Therefore, this is less than norm g1 plus sigma k equals 2 to infinity 1 by 2 to the power of k minus 1 from this. Now, observe that this is a GP and its first term is 1 by 2 and its common ratio is 1 by 2. So if you put k equals 2, 2 minus 1 is 1, so 1 by 2. First term is 1 by 2. And common ratio is also 1 by 2. So the sum to infinity is given by a by 1 minus r. That means 1 by 2 by 1 minus 1 by 2. That is 1. Therefore, this sum is equal to norm g1 plus 1. Since norm g1 is finite, this sum is finite. That means sigma k equals 1 to infinity, norm gk is finite. That means sigma k equals 1 to infinity, gk is absolutely summable. By assumption, sigma k equals 1 to infinity, gk is summable. By definition of summability, it's a partial sum sequence. Here, its partial sum sequence is fnk. Its partial sum sequence fnk. So, by definition, it's a partial sum sequence. That means the sequence fnk converges. Therefore, from these definitions of summability, this is summable. Sigma k equals 1 to infinity, gk is summable. Therefore, the subsequence fnk of the Cauchy sequence Fn converges in X. Therefore, every Cauchy sequence in X converges in X. Therefore, X is complete. Hence, the theorem. Now, most important theorem in this unit, known as Riesz-Fisher theorem, named after mathematicians Riesz and Fisher. This theorem states that LP spaces are complete. To prove this, let 1 less than or equal to p less than infinity as the case when P equals infinity is elementary. We have already proved that a non-linear space is complete if and only if every absolutely summable series is summable. In view of this theorem, it is enough if we prove that every absolutely summable series in LP is summable in LP to some element of LP. So let sigma n equals 1 to infinity Fn be an absolutely summable series in LP. By definition, sigma n equals 1 to infinity Rm Fn is finite, which we mark this finite number as m. So we have to prove that sigma n equals 1 to infinity Fn is summable in LP to some element in LP. Now define Gnx equals sigma k equals 1 to n mod fkx for all x belonging to the closed interval 0, 1. Since fk is a function from closed interval 0, 1 to r, which is measurable, mod fk is non-negative measurable, so that Gn is non-negative measurable for each n. Observe that Gn is a sequence of partial sums of the series sigma k equals 1 to infinity mod fkx. By using triangle inequality extending to n terms and modulus of mod fkx equals mod fkx, we get mod gn equals gn. By Minkowski's inequality extending to n terms, we get Rm gn is less than or equal to sigma k equals 1 to n Rm fk. And this is less than or equal to sigma k equals 1 to infinity Rm fk, since this contains more than non-negative terms more than this sum by sigma k equals n plus 1 to infinity Rm fk. And this is m. Therefore, Rm gn is less than or equal to m. But by definition, Rm gn is the pth root of integral of mod gn to the power of p. Therefore, it follows that pth root of integral mod gn to the power of p is less than or equal to m. Now, raising to power p, integral of mod gn to the power of p is less than or equal to n to the power of p. Since mod gn is gn, this implies integral of gn to the power of p is less than or equal to n to the power of p, which is finite. Yes. Now, gn plus 1 equals sigma k equals 1 to n plus 1 mod fkx, and this is equal to mod fn plus 1x plus gnx. Therefore, gn plus 1x is more than gx by a non-negative quantity mod fn plus 1x. Therefore, gn plus 1x is greater than or equal to gnx. Therefore, for each x, the partial sum sequence gnx is an increasing sequence of extended real numbers and so must converge to an extended real number, say gx. That is, gx equals limit over n gnx for all x. Since gn is measurable for each n, limit of gn, that is g, is measurable. Now raising to power p, g to the power of p x equals limit over n gn to the power of p x for all x. We keep on top for ready reference some of the facts covered in last slide. Let us recollect Fatu's lemma. If Gn is a sequence of non-negative measurable functions and Gnx tends to Gx almost everywhere on a set E, then integral of G is less than or equal to limit inferior over n integral Gn. Here Gn to the power of p is a sequence of non-negative measurable functions. Gn to the power of p is a sequence of non-negative measurable functions. And limit of Gn to the power of p is g to the power of p, almost everywhere. Therefore, by Fatu's lemma, we have integral of limit of Gn to the power of p is less than or equal to limit inferior over n integral of Gn to the power of p. Since limit of Gn to the power of p is g to the power of p, therefore integral of g to the power of p is less than or equal to limit inferior over n integral of Gn to the power of p. Now, since integral of Gn to the power of p is less than or equal to n to the power of p, therefore limit inferior of integral of Gn to the power of p is also less than or equal to n to the power of p. Therefore, this is less than or equal to m to the power of p, which is finite. Yes, which is finite. This implies integral of g to the power of p is finite. That means g to the power of p is an integrable function. And g to the power of p is finite almost everywhere. This implies g is finite almost everywhere. So, for each x for which gx is finite, limit of gnx is finite. But limit of gnx over n equals sigma equals limit as n tends to infinity sigma k equals 1 to n mod fkx, and which is equal to sigma k equals 1 to infinity mod fkx. This implies sigma k equals 1 to infinity mod fkx is finite. That is, sigma k equals 1 to infinity fk converges absolutely in R. Thus, for each x, the series sigma n equals 1 to infinity fn is absolutely summable of real numbers, and since R is complete by the above theorem, sigma k equals 1 to infinity fk must be fkx must be summable to a real number, say sx. Now set sx equals sigma k equals 1 to infinity fkx if gx is finite and 0 if gx is infinite. Here, the set of all x such that gx is infinity is a set of measure 0 since g is finite almost everywhere. As usual, salient points on the top for a ready reference. Claim sigma n equals 1 to infinity fn is summable to a sum S. Write Sn equals sigma k equals 1 to n fk. Since each fk is measurable, so is their sum, that is Sn. So Sn is a sequence of partial sums of the series sigma n equals 1 to infinity fn. Therefore, we have to show that limit of Sn equals S in LP. If Gx is finite, then Sx equals sigma k equals 1 to infinity fkx, and this equals limit to our n tends to infinity sigma k equals 1 to n fkx, that is limit to our n skx, limit to our n skx. Yes. Snx. Therefore, limit of Snx equals S almost everywhere since G is finite almost everywhere. Since each Sn is measurable, S is measurable. And mod Sn equals modulus of sigma k equals 1 to n fk by extending triangle inequality to n terms. This is less than or equal to sigma k equals 1 to n mod fk, and this equals gn. Since gn is increasing and limit of gn equals g, this is further less than or equal to g. That is, mod Sn is less than or equal to g. Therefore, limit of mod Sn is also less than or equal to g. That implies mod S is less than or equal to g. And raising to the power of p, this implies mod S to the power of p is less than or equal to g to the power of p. Now integrating, we get integral of mod S to the power of p is less than or equal to integral of g to the power of p, which is finite, into the integral of g to the power of p is finite. So S belongs to LP. Now As usual, salient points on the top for ready reference. Now we show that mod Sn minus s to the power of p is less than or equal to 2 to the power of p into g to the power of p. Now for that consider mod Sn minus s. Since this is clearly less than or equal to mod Sn plus mod s. Since mod Sn is less than or equal to g and mod s is less than or equal to g, this is less than g plus g, which is 2g. That means mod Sn minus s is less than or equal to 2g. Now raising to the power p, we get a mod Sn minus s to the power of p is less than or equal to 2 to the power of p into g to the power of p. Therefore, the sequence Sn minus s to the power of p is a sequence of non-negative measurable functions such that mod Sn minus s to the power of p is less than or equal to 2 to the power of p into g to the power of p, where 2 to the power of p, g to the power of p is integrable. Yes. Here, modulus of Sn minus s to the power of p is non-negative. And since Sn is measurable and s is measurable, therefore Sn minus s is measurable. Therefore, mod Sn minus s to the power of p is measurable. Therefore, this is a sequence of non-negative measurable functions. And here, mod Sn minus s to the power of p is less than or equal to 2 to the power of p into g to the power of p. Since g to the power of p is integrable, 2 to the power of p into g to the power of p is integrable. And limit of mod Sn minus s to the power of p as n tends to infinity is 0 almost everywhere. Since limit of Sn is equals s almost everywhere, this is 0, limit of mod Sn minus s to the power of p is 0 almost everywhere. Now, by recollecting Lebesgue convergence theorem, we have if g is an integrable function over E and Fn is a sequence of measurable functions such that mod Fn less than or equal to g, and for almost all x we have fx is equal to limit of Fnx, then integral of limit of Fn equals limit of integral Fn. So this is Lebesgue convergence theorem. Here 2 to the power of p, g to the power of p plays the role of g. Here g is integrable. Here 2 to the power of p, g to the power of p is integrable. And mod Sn minus s to the power of p plays the role of the sequence Fn. Here Fn is a sequence of measurable functions, and the sequence mod Sn minus s to the power of p is a sequence of measurable functions. And limit of Sn minus s to the power of p is 0 almost everywhere. Therefore, this hypothesis satisfies Lebesgue convergence theorem. Therefore, by Lebesgue convergence theorem, we have limit over n integral of mod Sn minus s to the power of p is 0. This implies limit norm Sn minus s to the power of p is 0. Since this equals norm Sn minus S to the power of p. And this implies limit norm Sn minus S is 0. That means limit of Sn equals S and S is in LP. Therefore, the given series is summable to a sum S. Sigma, the series sigma k equals 1 to infinity Fk is summable to a sum S. Hence, LP is complete. By the by, we have proved that LP is a complete norm-linear space. That is, LP is a Banach space. Let us summarize what we have done here. We have defined summable and absolutely summable series in a norm-linear space. And we have proved a necessary and sufficient condition for completeness that a norm-linear space is complete if and only if every absolutely summable series is summable. And finally, we proved Rees-Fisher. Now, important questions from this presentation. 1. Prove that a norm-linear space is complete if and only if every absolutely summable series is summable. 2. State and prove Rees-Fisher theorem. Exercise. Prove that L infinity is complete. 2. Let Fn be a sequence of functions in L infinity. Prove that Fn converges to F in L infinity if and only if there is a set of measure 0 such that Fn converges to F uniformly on E. Hi, this completes LP spaces. You please study LP spaces thoroughly to score full marks. Feel free to contact me for doubts, if any. Thank you for going through this presentation with patience. Thank you. Thank you.